Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League of Europe YouTube channel for round number 14 of Season 6 of Division 3. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Commenters. I'll be taking you through proceedings here tonight on a Saturday as per usual. And joining me in the commentary box once again, of course, is my fellow D3 commentator and fellow D2 driver, Jake. Jake, how are you doing this evening?
As always, I'm very well. Actually, I'll jump right in and say we're out of Mexico. This takes me back to the scene of my first ever full-time D3 commentary pre-season last season.
Yes.
And I seem to remember a certain Mr. Carmentalist dominated that race. Wasn't a particularly good one, I recall. You waltzed out in front, decimated the field, and then proceeded to do nothing all season when it got competitive. But I'm excited. Hopefully we get more of the same, because we said before we came on air, this is an awful track. Everybody hates it, and that means mistakes and all sorts could happen.
Yeah, definitely. You had to throw that little roast in there, didn't you? Straight away. First couple of minutes of the stream. Unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, fully agree with you there in the sense that a lot of drivers, I think, have been a little bit caught out with how bad this track is. I think the last game, at least, a lot of people did enjoy this track. It threw up a lot of different strategies. It was a good track to drive, but this time around, don't know what has happened, but the track is very, very slippery, almost akin to what you would see from a street circuit on this game. It is a very, very slippy track. It's a difficult one as well in terms of tyre management, in terms of penalties, and a whole host of things around this track as well. And it's likely it could rain as well. So, fair to say that this race could be something more along the lines of what we would see somewhere like Imola or Monaco, where it's maybe a little bit more of an attrition race than anything else.
I think you're right. I think we could see a lot of drivers drop out. Though I do hope it doesn't rain. I think wet races, historically, on this game, not the most exciting affairs. Maybe if we get a blend of wet and dry, that might be more exciting. But I'm hopeful, which is the opposite to real life, but I'm hopeful that we'll get a nice full dry race with no disturbances from the weather, because that's usually when you get the best races in league racing, when it's just pure flat-out racing in the dry. The wet always seems to just make things a little bit more boring, and it looks like we're getting ready to go.
Yeah, it looks like we are getting ready to go, like you say. So I think we are just missing a couple of people from the lobby. So unfortunately, Thiago is not here, and Harry Nowag is going to be late to the lobby. He will be joining in qualifying. So we will have 18 drivers here this evening. So just before we get ready for qualifying, let's run you through the championship order after the last round, of course, which was at Imola. Last time out, a race victory for RJ, his first race win since Russia last season. A brilliant drive from himself from the very back of the field. Forza Brendan, though, our title leader, finished in second position last time out. His championship lead now has extended quite heftily at this point in the standings. 46 points is his championship lead, with just 4 rounds to go, including this one. Karen Robb is 59 points now off the championship lead in third position. They're comfortably clear of the battle for fourth, which is Funky Chicken and Luke. They're level on points on 97, with Brent just behind. Recuric, J. Cole, RJ and Calvin rounding off the top 10, and just 27 points covers fourth, all the way down to 10th position at the moment. So a close battle for fourth, but you've got to say, I mean, we've mentioned it already to each other, but we've got to say after tonight, depending on how the result ends up, we could see Brendan's first hand on that trophy, you've got to say.
I think he's got a hand on it already. I think after tonight we could see a hand and 4 fingers, just missing a thumb there on that trophy, because he's got such a monumental lead. And frankly, he's not looked too challenged, has he? I think the big swing came at Belgium in the last lap of that race there, with the collision between Tinkan and his teammate Calvin. I think from then on, I don't think Brendan's looked really too flustered in terms of the championship. He's looked very comfortable, and he's looked generally quite assured all season. There's plenty of individual mistakes, a couple of points that we've spoken about at length throughout the season. But yeah, I think he's got the hand on it already. I think today and next week at Baku will just be wrapping it up for him. I can't see Tinkan putting on a late surge, but I'm open to be proven wrong. But Brendan has been a standout all season long, so whether he wins it next week or the week after, I think he thoroughly deserves it.
Yeah, I do as well. He's had a really good season. I think the word of the season for him has probably been bounce back, hasn't it? It's been a couple of rounds where it's gone horribly wrong for him. Majority of the time out of his control, it's just not gone his way, and then the next race he comes in unfazed and puts in a brilliant performance. That's kind of been the story of his season so far. So we'll see if he can maintain that tonight. But anything can change in one round. Brendan with a retirement and Tinkan with a race win, and Tinkan is back within 21 points or 20 points if he gets the fastest lap of Forza Brendan, so anything can happen in these last few rounds, of course. One thing to note as well, though, tonight, mathematically, I'm going to take this from you, Jake, I'm stealing this one from you, but mathematically tonight, we could see one driver drop out of the championship. That's Carwin Robb. Carwin Robb, we'll talk a little bit about him now, shall we, before we get properly going for qualifying, but he had a bit of a poor start to the season. He had the speed, but it maybe wasn't quite going his way. He had an absolutely mega midpoint of the season, was winning almost left, right and centre, had brilliant pace, and then in the last few rounds or so, it's just kind of petered out a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, he's had a very, very mixed bag. I say his season's been as much of a mixed bag as anyone in any division. As you say, some staggering performances. Singapore, he absolutely blew the field away, and he did the same at Hungary as well. I think he's quite low down the field in his terms of qualifying position. But since then, since Hungary, he's not managed to finish on the podium, and he DNF'd last week as well after qualifying very well. And then he had that early moment, didn't he, in the wet, and it's just not really fallen for him for one reason or another. Start of the season, the end of the season, so far, I think are very much going the same way for Carwin Robb. He had good qualifying, but just couldn't find his footing in the races, in the first few races, and then again in the last few. It's a strange one, as you say. He had a staggering middle, but he's kind of overpromised and under-delivered, hasn't he, a little bit this season?
Yeah, it's a shame to see. I mean, he's been on the front row more than any other driver this season, has Carwin Robb. I think at this point now, round 14, I think he's been on the front row 9 times this season. He's been incredibly strong in qualifying. It's never fully translated in race conditions. Sometimes, like you say, Singapore, it does come together, but the majority of the time it just doesn't seem to go his way. That's where the likes of Tinkan and Brendan do have the advantage, is that consistency in race speed. So we'll see if that is another thing tonight, whether Carwin Robb can maybe drag himself back into contention, but it's going to take a major result from himself and some bad luck for our championship leader for that to happen. But who knows, Mexico can spring up any surprise. We're running with Dowry. He's going to be taking us through a lap around Mexico at full speed. He's heading into the S section in the middle part of the lap now through turn 7, and then it's 8, 9, 10 and 11 coming at you thick and fast. So incredibly easy through here to run off the track and invalidate your time or pick up a warning in the race, but Dowry keeping it nice and neat and tidy for the first few corners of this lap so far. Into now the stadium section and the end of the lap. Of course, the Peratala used to run around the outside of that corner. It's now a very slow and clunky stadium section. It's great for the fans, not so great for racing, unfortunately, as he heads through into turns 16 and 17 to finish off the lap. Which was on a lap in front of him, but he's invalidated, I believe, and across the line comes Dowry, and it's a 15.2 for the first one in the session, but we're expecting times to be around the mid-14s, possibly the low 14s as well, if you can maximise the time. One thing to note, though, a lot of drivers currently out on the track on a set of medium compound tyres.
Very surprised at that, unless it's purely just they can get 4 runs in, so why not? I don't think anyone would really be aiming to necessarily start on the medium. You can do a soft medium here. It's not a problem to do, at least from what I've seen. So I'm surprised that so many are going for a sighter lap on the mediums, if indeed it is just a sighter. That was a nice lap from Dowry. There's an alright opening effort, 15.2. Chum Funky Jing does a 15.4 also on softs. But you can see through the S section when we jumped on board with him, he's just driving within himself a little bit. The car was wandering away, easy to understeer through those S's. It just didn't quite hook up the apexes as he'd like to, but still a good effort. Tinkan pops in a 15.7 on mediums, and I'm sure we're going to see quite a variation in the times here with the variation in tyres. 15.1 for RJ. It'll be interesting to see, having won last week, if RJ can actually have a good race result from a decent qualifying session, because normally he's coming through from the back, isn't he?
Yeah, usually has been the last 3 rounds, 3 podiums in a row now. He's been the highest scorer in the last 3 rounds, has RJ. It's been a really good turn of form of him recently, but like you say, it's not usually come in the most conventional way. So we'll see if he is able to do that tonight. It's the 2 McLarens from the 2 Alfa Romeos at the moment. Rex has gone 3rd and Peter Gillis has gone just behind him in 4th position. It's a good thing though, even if Darius' lap maybe wasn't as fast as he's going again actually, so it looks like he's got a bit more fuel in that car, just trying to get a few runs in. One thing to note as well is that while it maybe isn't the best time for some of these drivers and they're still in the 15s, they've at least got something on the board, haven't they? It's so easy around this track to invalidate, so having something there to aim for is always a great thing to have for this kind of session.
That was very aptly timed, that was, because I was on board with Carwin Robb and he went invalid through the S's as a man who cannot afford an invalidation. He's under a lot of pressure to put out a good result, at least for himself, to stay in this championship fight, if he is indeed still in it. So, yeah, he's a good example of what you've just said there. Going invalid on the first effort, and it's just going to make it harder for him for the rest of the session. He's going again. I think he was purple through Sector 1 as well, Karen Robb, so he's got the speed under him to go straight to the top of the times. But yeah, like you say, you've got to get a valid lap in. It's so important because already we're 6 minutes into the session, only 7 drivers with times on the board. We've seen a lot go invalid. So even just setting a valid lap could get you 3 or 4 places, because I would expect there are going to be a few people here who don't end up setting one.
Yeah, it is very possible, like you say. I mean, we've seen it a couple of times from Jayco in recent rounds where he's one of those drivers that's gone out early on a set of medium compound tyres and it's fallen away from him. Darry's improved to a 15 flat on his 3rd lap on that set of soft compound tyres now. So a good time from Darry, but he will want to set a better time on a fresher set of softs. The soft compound tyres here do wear quite quickly. The percentage wears maybe not too bad, but the tyre drop off at the start of these races on the soft compound tyres can be quite big. So Darry will want to go and improve on a fresher set of tyres. But at the moment, it's a McLaren 1-2. As I say that, Karen Robb crosses the line and goes 0.2 of a second quicker on a 14.8. A good lap time from the Alpine man, back up to the front of the timesheets. But again, no one quite in that mid-14 range where we're maybe expecting Pole to be.
Yeah, I am with you there. I think we're going to see Pole as a mid-14, maybe, depending on how much we've got our championship leaders sweating out for this one. We might see Pole with a 14.3, 14.2 even, I think is possible, depending on where Brendan and Tinkan and Karen Robb are out. Obviously, Karen Robb's got more time in that because that was his 2nd lap on the tyre, so there's more raw performance underneath him for him to find at least a 10th or 2 there. We say this every week, can anyone really challenge those our three protagonists? I have to say, again, I don't think so. Darry was very quick last week though, wasn't he, at San Marino? Yeah. He was good in qualified. I think he qualified 4th, had an unfortunate first lap, and he's up there again so far after the first run, so I'm optimistic he might get his way in there into the fight for pole.
Yeah, fingers crossed. He did obviously, like you say, he had great pace in Imola. Qualified, I believe, 4th on the grid, and yeah, his race was almost immediately over at the start of the first lap. But yeah, great comeback from him. So look out for him tonight. He's been on a good run of form recently. He's not scored a lot of points this season. I think he's one to admit that he's maybe not had the best of seasons in terms of finishing races, but when he does have the pace to be right up there. So keep an eye on him for tonight. Maybe have a strong finish to the season. One person who has, like Karen Robb, started off the season pretty well and has petered out in recent rounds is J. Cole. He's on a lap at the moment, and if ever there was a man to explain why you should get a banker lap in as early as you can, it's J. Cole, isn't it? A lot of his previous rounds, I think 3 out of the last 4 of his rounds, he's qualified outside of the top 15, and it's kind of put pay to him having any good races. He's has solid race pace for the majority of the season, but his qualifying performances aren't putting him in the places where he needs to be.
Yeah, he regularly comes unstuck in qualifying as J. Cole. It's very much his Achilles heel. He regularly, as you say, qualify outside the top 10 and then come through and always finish around 6th or 7th. And that's the kind of performances we expect from him. I know he's quite bullish about his chances today. He feels like he can get a really strong result. He's as hopeful of a win here as he has been at any track this season. So we'll see where he ends up at the end of this lap. Kept it nice and tidy through the same section. He'll pull the car to the right-hand side of the track for the shortest run to the line. 15.0 fractionally off Darry, but a good opening effort for J. Cole. But of course, it's 8 minutes left in the session, and that's his first competitive lap time. So he's already effectively a stint out of step with the rest of the field. There, Forza Brendan's on a lap. We've not mentioned him so far this session, have we? He's another one who's not set a lap time. 28.3 in Sector 1. That's a good effort. J. Luke's retired through the S's. It's no surprise we've seen someone come a cropper there. Brendan's just got the stadium section to navigate. He's got a Ferrari in front of him, which might even be Tinkan. It is Tinkan, so but that won't distract him. So he's just got the last corner to go. And again, just like J. Cole, he's going to keep it to the right-hand side of the track for the shortest run, a 14.7. Pole by a 10th for Brendan.
Yeah, good lap time on the board. Like I say, his first time in the session as well, something to build from. Tinkan did dive into the pit lane at the end of his run, so I think he invalidated that run, unfortunately. So still second place man in the championship, currently 11th on the grid with only a 15.7. Another improvement there. That's Farrell Fury that's gone up into 7th place in the AlphaTauri in tonight for, I believe it's Brent. Yeah, Brent not racing tonight, so Farrell's into that AlphaTauri, and a 15.2 puts him 7th on the grid at the moment, so not too bad. He had his first race in Monza in that race, I think by his standards as well, went horribly wrong. So we'll see what he can do tonight. This is going to be his first proper attempt, I would say, at a race in this division, and his teammate at the moment, Tim Matz, has validated before his lap has even begun, so he's backed off well before turn 1. So still a lot of drivers struggling for times. You've got to say, anybody from, well, Funky Chicken down's not really set a representative time. Funky Chicken's gone again, but him and Tin Can, you've got to say, are massively out of position at the moment.
Hugely, and Funky Chicken, we used to see him at the top at the sharp end. He's never in the fight for the win, but he's always sort of just behind it, waiting to see if something happens. I'm just on board with Peter Gillis. He's on a very good lap right now. He's on course to go into the 14s, and he had a strong performance at Monza, did Peter Gillis. And he was there or thereabouts at various times, although look at the understeer he's having through the same section. That's going to completely kill his lap. He was on for a 14.9 or a 14.8 even. Still going to be an half-decent lap. 15.03, joins 15.0 club. But that could have been better for Peter Gillis. There's more time in that. His stadium section was absolutely awful.
Yeah, definitely more time, like you say, maybe overheating the tyres by the end of the run, but not too bad. Yeah, he was there or thereabouts in Imola, of course, as well. He was racing around for that final podium spot before a botched strategy onto the virtual safety car, and then a botched strategy onto the full safety car at the end of the race really put pay to him having a decent finish. He ended up spinning out and crashing out of the race, but just a few laps away from the end of the race. So he's got the speed there, he just needs to put it together in full race conditions. Foul Fury has improved further on the same set of tyres, and there's Funky Chicken now to the top of up to the front of the timesheets. The next person into the 14, so 14.9. That's more like it from the Aston Martin man. So it just remains that Tin Can is still the one massively out of position at the moment. Matt's still without a time. J. Luke has crashed out of the session, which was retired in the pit. So both Williams are out of the session now. Matt's out of position without a time, and Tin Can's still down in 14th. So yeah, difficult for those drivers. Another one as well you've got to say is Rex. Maybe he's had good qualifying speed all season long, just again not quite putting it together at the moment.
No, Rex, he's another strange one. He's sort of the opposite of Funky Chicken. When Funky Chicken's very quick and clean, Rex is about a similar pace, but is much more aggressive, much more elbows out. I think we saw that at Hungary, is the one that stands out to me. But he's an interesting one, Rex. He's had a very sort of odd season, another one with a bit of a mixed bag. He's going through Sector 1 now, hooks up 1, 2 and 3 nicely. Everyone ploughing into the pits, so we're not going to... I think he's the only one on a lap right now. And that's a really good first sector from a 28.3. That puts him very much in the Rickerick Funky Chicken territory at the top, but he's invalidated on the exit of turn 5, and that typifies what we've been saying all session. People just can't get a valid lap in. I just want to say quickly as well, if you look from Funky Chicken down to RJ, 3rd to 10th, he's very much there for the taking. Everyone's got one lap to go. 3rd to the 10th is just free real estate right now for anybody. It's so close right there.
Yeah, it really is. A tenth and a half about separates those, 8 drivers. So, yeah, incredible driving from all those ones as well. When Nathan is onto a lap now, he's not too far back either in the second Red Bull, filling in for Calvin tonight. We'll see what Nathan can do. He's had some solid performances as a reserve this season, so we'll continue on. And Rex, yeah, I've got to agree with you, Rex is an odd one, isn't it? He had great potential when he first joined the division, as obviously under the name of LGN Cobalt. Back then, he had a brilliant start to his campaign in Spain. He had really, really good pace, and then since then has never really been able to match that performance. So interesting to see what he can do. One person who's had a brilliant first sector is Nathan, a 0.1 in the first sector. That's a very strong first sector time. Can he get to the front alongside his Red Bull teammate coming through the second sector split now? He crosses across the line, is half a second up, so this is going to put him right at the front of the field if he can nail this final sector. Nice and neat on the way into the stadium, around the hairpin, gets the apex very nice. He doesn't hit the sausage curb on the inside, makes sure that he keeps the car as planted to the road as he can for the best traction, and then through 16 and 17, this could be at the very front of the field. It's provisional pole for Nathan JB by 15 thousandths of a second. It's a Red Bull 1-2. That's a brilliant lap time from Nathan, and that's the highest we've seen him in qualifying really all season long.
What a lap. Even when we don't have both Red Bulls with us, we still end up with a Red Bull front row lockout. It's incredible how it happens, isn't it? But that's exciting to see, because I think Nathan is one, obviously he's thrown himself right up there, and I think we've got Darry and Peter Gillis at the very least who have shown they've got pace to be up there. Tin Can out of position as well. We've got plenty of drivers who could be right at the front of the field here. I think it's not just Brendan versus Rob. We've got 4 or 5 very much in the mix for this pole position. And we're 2.5 minutes to go, just over. This is very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Everyone's now starting to come out at the very end of the session for their final runs. J. Cole was on a run. He's not invalidated, but he has backed off. He had a poor first sector, so he immediately backed off the run. And then he's just invalidated going slow through the stadium section. So he might have invalidated the next run. I don't think he would have done, though. He's just coming around the final corner now to start another run, keeping it all the way to the left-hand side of the track so he can build as much speed as he wants to onto this pit straight. A very, very long pit straight. One of the longest running towards turn 1 that we will see all season long as well. So going to be really interesting to see how that one plays out in the race conditions as well. Dari's just started a lap in the McLaren. He's not improved since he's set that lap on those 3-lap-old softs, so this is a crucial lap for him as well to make sure that he improves here.
Yep, it's huge for a lot of drivers, and I'm just going to keep an eye on the Sector 1 times as people come through. J. Cole, 28.393. That's not too bad. We've got Luke just behind him as well, but Luke's backed off. RJ's retired. Dari's going to be the next one across the first sector split. I'm not sure why Luke backed off. He must have had an awful Sector 1. 28.2 for Dari. That's a big first sector. Nathan's retired. He's not going to improve. So we've got Rob, Brendan, Chicken, Rick, Dari, Peter Gillis, all raring to go because Nathan's retired. He's not going to improve, so they've all got their sights set on Nathan. And where's J. Cole going through the middle sector? He's still a tenth and a half up. He can still dip into the 14s here. And with how close it is, he's going to shoot up towards Carwin Rob if he just gets his stadium section together. He's not had the same kind of mistakes that we're used to from him in qualifying. He understeers a little bit through turn 16 there, but he's just going to dash to the line. A 14.7. That's third, and that's more what we expect from J. Cole.
Yeah, brilliant time from him. Dari as well has found 2.5 tenths in the first 2 sectors. He rounds the final corner and now he goes third. He doesn't find any time in the final sector, but it's enough to put him on the second row now, and Kyron Robb is dumped down into 5th position. He's just started his next one in the session. Luke crosses the line. He's going again on the same set of tyres. Tin Can's backed off. Tin Can has backed off on his one. I don't know if he's got enough time left in the session to go again. You'll have to make sure that he does. I think he's just got enough time, but it's not going well for Tin Can at the moment, down in 14th position without a proper time on the board. Trench will be next to cross the line. A 15.6 is the best he's managed so far. Rex in the pit lane has retired. He will not be improving on 11th place. Trench around the final corner and he goes only 13th on the grid. Stays where he was, improved by 4 tenths, but couldn't gain any places. Tin Can going again on the same set of tyres. Farrell next to cross the line, but he's invalidated. He is also going again. He's currently 10th. So a lot of drivers struggling to set valid laps. Peter Gillis as well was 2 tenths of a second up in the middle sector, but he's invalidated at some point in the lap. What would have been provisional pole had he not invalidated. So 8th is the best that Peter Gillis can manage in this session. Everyone really struggling at the end of this session. Carwin Robb crosses the line and he is invalidated as what would have been provisional pole as well. So Carwin Robb only 5th on the grid. Brendan, can he get onto pole? He's not improved on his lap. Rickerick's gone pole. That's a brilliant time, and Forza Brendan snatches it away from him just a couple of seconds later. Forza Brendan to the front of the field, but Rickerick with a surprise qualifying performance up in 2nd position. I don't think anybody else is on a lap fast enough to really challenge those at the front. Luke's back into the pits. Farrell's on a lap. He's 2 tenths up in the first sector, but I don't think he's going to have enough pace in himself to get to the front of the field. That's a brilliant time for Brendan once again, and Rickerick right at the front.
We've just got Farrell Fury on a lap. He is improving. He's 2 tenths up, so he's going to dip into the high 14s. But what a lap from Brendan and Rickerick and Nathan and Dari. That was a staggering qualifying performance from all of them. The times just kept improving at the end there. It wasn't quite as... oh yeah, Tin Can's dropped into 3rd. I thought he backed off. That shows how much I dipped out of that one. But, so that's finally poised. I love that. I wish it was the other way around. I'd love to see Brendan having to do the hunting as the person who's got the lead to defend. But that's big. We've got a race on our hands, I think, at least not just in terms of this one, but in terms of the championship as well. I was worried that Tin Can was going to be out of it and we'd have nothing to talk about. But what a session.
Yeah, brilliant session in the end. A lot of mistakes from a lot of drivers, but in the end, yet again, Forza Brendan at the front of the field. When will this man ever stop being at the front of the field? We've got to say, but Rickerick, a brilliant qualifying from him. I think that might be his first front row start of the season in the Haas. A brilliant drive from him to be only 0.03 of a second off pole. Tin Can in 3rd, trying to keep his championship home alive. Then it's Nathan, Dari, J. Cole, Carwin, Rob, Farrell did improve to 8th, Funky Chicken 9th, and Peter Gillis rounds off the top 10. Less than half a second covering the top 10 in the end. Very close. Then it's Luke, Rex, RJ, Trench, J. Luke, Mats and Wyatt Chawai. The final 2 on the grid there, Mats and Wyatt Chawai, not setting times in the session. J. Luke crashing out of the session on his first run on the soft compound tyres. So in the end, of all the people that set valid and representative times, it was only 7 tenths covering them and only half a second covering the top 10. So this could be a very fascinating race. And of course, around here, if there's ever a difference between qualifying and the race, you've got to say it's here, isn't it? It could be a massive shift in who's fast in the race here. Don't know if we can hear you there, Jake. But anyway, just loading into the lobby, and it looks like it's a little bit cloudy for the start of this race. Do you think we could have maybe any rain interference here?
No. Sorry, I should take a drink. J. Cole has told me reliably that he's all dry for the race, but maybe the cloudiness might help the tyres a little bit. I have no idea if the weather system does impact the tyres. Harry Nowag joins us, but hopefully he doesn't jump into his car during the formation lap, because I know that can sometimes mess the lobbies up. But yeah, what you're just saying about it, I think the tyre drop-off is so extreme here that we could see different drivers in the race to the ones that are in qualifying coming through, and it could really shuffle the pack. I think there's a good chance that the winner could, well, minus Forza Brendan, the non-Forza Brendan winner, could come from anywhere in this field, and I've got high hopes for a lot of these drivers that they can have really strong races. Nathan is someone I expect to have good pace, but we've not seen it from him so far this season in his limited appearances. Darry, I hope for more for him after Imola last week. Rickerick as well, we know historically just how super he is as a driver. J. Cole, Carwin, Rob, Chicken, even Farrell Fury, Peter Gillis is in good form right now. Luke has won a race this season. We expect more from Rex. RJ in 13th has been on the podium the last 3 races. So I don't want to exclude the 4 at the bottom, but any of the top 13 I can make a case for in this race for one way or another, and that's just fabulous to see. Let's have a look at the strategies. We've got Rex and YHYY on softs, that's 110. Everyone else on the mediums. I think this is, I'm sure you'll agree, a soft medium or medium soft. There's no other real options on the table unless you need to make damage or repair damage and go for a stick set of hards on. But otherwise, I think it is a soft medium, medium soft, isn't it?
It does seem that way, although the two-stop around here traditionally has been pretty fast. I think because of how big the tyre drop-off is, if you're fast enough, you can make a two-stop work. So I won't be surprised if we see those at the front of the field trying that two-stop strategy. The one-stop, on paper, seems the faster of the two strategies, I've got to say. And of course, you won't be doing as much overtaking or being held up by as many people. But that, of course, requires you being good at managing your tyres. And we're not sure that everyone in the field is. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of strategy comes out on top. Assuming from your side of things, you would say that preferably you'd prefer the one-stop here.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer the one-stop. I'd go for the one-stop. I think it's low risk. If you can make the tyres last, it's a very low-risk strategy. You don't put the pressure on yourself to make the time up. So when you try and make the time up, that's where mistakes come from. When you make mistakes, you get penalties, you get damage, and it's just a cascade of nastiness you don't want to get yourself into if you're trying to chase making a two-stop work. So I think the one-stop is the safer option. I think it's what most people are going to go for. And I'm going to say Rickerick is going to win this race today. Forza Brendan is going to be 3rd, and J. Cole 2nd.
Okay, interesting. I got my eye on Rickerick as well. It's usually often the smartest driver that wins at Mexico, or not the fastest, so we'll wait and see how this one pans out, of course. But we should be ready for the lights to go on ahead of the drivers. Here we go then. Who's going to get the best start on the long run down towards turn 1? Lights are on for a very long time, and we are away for the Mexican GP, and it's a poor start from Nathan, and it's a great start from Rickerick from 2nd on the grid. He's already ahead of Brendan. No one on the 2nd row got a good start, so they're already being swamped. Tinkan has dropped 3 places off the line, but Rickerick into towards turn 1 is going to have the inside line. The Hassman takes the lead. Brendan has to settle for 2nd place in towards turn 1. Nathan's up to 3rd. Tinkan continues to drop in the melee through turns 2 and 3. He's down to 7th. He's got Peter Gillis right behind him now, trying to make the move. Carwin Rob is side by side as well with him and Darry as they head down towards turn 4 and 5. Tinkan on the outside line, trying to go all the way around the outside of Carwin Rob. He does so. He's got the inside for Darry. They wheel bang through turn 5, and it should be Tinkan that comes out on top. He lost 2 places there, and he's gained the 2 of them back in the very next corner. So aggressive driving from Tinkan. He's back up into 5th position. Darry down to 6th. Carwin Rob down to 7th. Peter Gillis is up 2 places into 8th. He's jumped ahead of Farrell and Funky Chicken, who's dropped down into 11th position. And we've got Trench and White to White at the back of the field. I think both of them might be with damage.
There was quite a bit of bumping in the middle of turns 1 and 2. I saw 3 wide a couple of times with a few different drivers. Funky Chicken and Peter Gillis pinched Farrell Fury right in the middle on the apex of turn 2. And I saw just a lot of bumping from behind as well. But that was important for Tinkan. They didn't lose that place to Darry. him and Carwin Robb need an elbows out, all aggression performance today. I think Carwin Robb is going to make a place up on Darry. Darry's going to try and defend this one, but Carwin Robb has got to make this move. He's got to get places early. He can't let Forza Brendan get too far ahead of him. He can see him going through the apex turn 1 as he goes for this move. He's going to hang it around the outside of 2. It comes the inside for 3, and then Peter Gillis hits the back of him. That could well be damage for the Alfa Romeo. An innocent bystander there, and you've got Farrell Fury looking to maximise and capitalise on that because he's up the inside for turn 4 now. Peter Gillis is going to try hang that one around the outside. I don't think he's going to make it stick, is he? He's coming back at him through 5 towards 6, and nicely done from Peter Gillis. Farrell Fury is going to take the high line through 6 and ends up finding himself, he's very vulnerable to Rex. Now look at Rex is going to try to go round the outside of turn 7. Yes, there's never going to be any space there. The corner chops away from him. But Farrell Fury and Rex gets a penalty, the first of many, I'm sure, on lap 2 here. But that was a very tricky racing there. And that all came from Carwin Robb trying to overtake Darren. It lasted all the way through to turn 7 with 2 or 3 cars behind.
Yeah, it was a really, really good battle in the end. That's a good thing about Mexico, is you can sustain battles for quite a while. Rikurik continues to lead. Nathan with the fastest lap on that lap, closing back in on his de facto teammate for today, Carwin Robb, this time around so much closer to Darry coming out of the final corner. It looks like he's going to breeze past on the way into turn 1. The one problem for these drivers, though, is ERS around this track, as Forza Brendan's going for the lead on Rikurik around the outside of turn 1, which will become the inside for turn 2. And from a long way back at the start of the straight, Forza Brendan has got the move done on Rikurik without any DRS, and he's into the lead. So back into the order that they were on the grid then. Brendan leads on Rikurik and Nathan. J. Cole trying to go for the move on Nathan around the outside of turn 4, which will be the inside for turn 5. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact there. J. Cole losing the rear of the car as the process, and Nathan holds on to third for the time being. But J. Cole looking pretty racy at this point of the race so far. Carwin Robb did get that move done on Darry. He's up into 6th, and Darry already under pressure from Peter Gillis behind.
I know there's no love lost between Nathan and J. Cole. J. Cole very much blamed Nathan for his spin on lap 1 at Monza, so I think J. Cole's trying to get his revenge there. DRS now in effect, that's the first DRS zone they'll come through. Nathan just hanging on to the back of Rikurik there. I'm surprised Brendan made the move when he did, because he used a lot of ERS to do it. As you say, he came from a long way back at the start of the straight. He used all of his overtake to make it work. He's now trying to run away, but Rick has held on to the DRS just enough that I think Brendan's going to be stuck now, and he's not going to be able to get away from Rick. I think it's quite telling of how troublesome it is to manage the ERS that nobody inside the top 10 has more than 50% overtake going down the straight available to them. We've got Gillis now on Darren. We've got Farrell Fury and Rex going at it behind through turn 1. Farrell Fury's going to force his way up the inside of 2 and ends up getting spun round by the contact model. I think Funky Chicken's going to fancy his chances at capitalising on this, because he is right in Rex's slipstream. Even though Rex has got DRS, the slipstream's powerful enough for Funky Chicken that he can pull out to the inside. He's going to go deep on the brakes. Rex is going to give him an elbow and shove him off the road there, forces him out, rounds him out of road nicely, but just holds on to position there. But that's very costly for Farrell Fury. I think that was just contact model, but I'm not too sure.
I think he might have bounced off the curb on the inside of turn 2. It's so easy to do in that chicane though, isn't it? It's quite difficult to run side by side through there, and I think that a lot of drivers have already proved that in this race. The top 5 have broken away from the rest of the field. Carwin Robb can't close in on the back of Tin Can at the moment. He's kind of in a race on his own in 6th, and that whole battle that we just saw with Darry and Peter Gillis means that they're now a little bit detached as well in 7th and 8th, but they've managed to just drop Rex, as I say that. Peter Gillis now with the time penalties, so both Alfa Romeos now with time penalties in this race, and we're only on lap 5, and that will be a recurring theme really tonight, is the amount of penalties a lot of these drivers are going to get. Best person in terms of ERS at the moment in the top 5 is Rikurik in 2nd place, so at this point in the race it does look like Rikurik's maybe the faster of those drivers at the front of the field.
He's a wily old fox, this Rikurik. He reminds me of Fernando Alonso a little bit. He's good at picking his moments and just playing the game to perfection, as it were, and he's just managing his ERS a little bit behind Brendan, like you say. Nathan and J. Cole are sticking with this bunch really nicely. I think Brendan's going to find it's going to start costing him trying to manage this train, because these aren't two shabby drivers behind him. He's got 4 very, very quick guys on his trail, and he's going to have to try and judge that as to how much overtake he uses to try and deploy to manage it, because he's not going to drop Rick. Nathan runs wide there on the exit of turn 11, and that's going to be a warning for him. I think it's only a matter of time before we see more penalties flooding in. But I'll say now, I am not at all surprised that it's the two Alfa Romeos who were the first ones to fall foul of Mexico's track limits based on previous history. And Nathan has a big moment there over the kink of 15 before Peraltada. So Nathan's not completely happy with how his tyres are feeling right now. Couple of scruffy mistakes on that lap.
Yeah, this will be the start really of where the softs will start to go off. We'll see a bit of a pace drop off now in the softs, probably from this point onwards. So be interested to see what these drivers can do on the softs further down. Dari is going for a move, Rex is going for a move on Dari, I believe, or it's the other way around. I think Rex is going for the move on Dari down the inside and towards turn 1. Can he get the move done on the McLaren around the outside of turn 2, which becomes the inside for turn 3? They're still side by side here. Great driving between the two of them. RJ now with a penalty. Funky Chicken almost tried to split the middle, and Dari's just turned straight into the side of Rex there down the straight. I think he tried to tuck in behind the Alfa Romeo, and in the process of doing that has spun the Alfa Romeo clean into the wall, and that is Rex race over and done with, and that is completely Dari's fault. Nothing that Rex could have done in that situation.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I wish I could comment, but I was checking how many warnings we had so far. But I trust you if you say that's Dari's fault. And again, he's had a bit of a mare after a half decent qualifying, and he's down with a lot of damage on that car now. Front left end plate missing completely. Lets everybody go. I'm surprised we've not had a safety car. And I have to say, if we had a safety car, I think Brendan might have struggled a little bit into turn 1 because of how early he would have had to go, with start finish line being right at the start of the straight. But I'll tell you what, look at the gap now between Carwin Robb, Funky Chicken and Peter Gillis, and look at the gap between Peter Gillis and J-Luke. That battle has just completely strung this field out by a mile. 4.5 seconds between the dueling Chicken and Gillis and Carwin Robb, who is now by himself a little bit there. So it's really strung the field out, and we're detached now into 3 little battles, aren't we? And we've got another yellow flag at the back, and that's Tim Matz' round at turn 1. He joins his teammate at the back of the field.
Yeah, I didn't see if there was any contact there for Tim Matz, unfortunately, but yeah, down to the back of the field for him. Luke got the move on J-Luke. He's now the lead medium runner. But one thing to note here, despite all the battling with the soft runners that we just had with the likes of the Alfa Romeos, Dari and Funky Chicken, none of the medium runners were able to keep up. And we know Luke's a race winner this season, RJ's a race winner this season, J-Luke has had 2 strong races in his first 2 races back in Division 3. Trench isn't slow either, so the fact that these medium runners are struggling to keep up with the soft runners in front, and we're on lap 7 of this race, suggests to me that the medium tyres are just not a good race tyre at the moment.
They're not, are they? They're really struggling. And I find that quite surprising, because by this point I thought the softs would be, in the bin in terms of pace-wise. Not in terms of wear, but very much in terms of pace. But they're holding on quite nicely, and I want to give a shout out as well to Carwin Robb, because he's got really, really, really strong pace here. He's not falling behind Tin Can at all, and that's even though Tin Can has DRS in 3 DRS zones, one of which is extremely long. Carwin Robb could win this race here. If something happens that gets him into DRS zone, if there's an SC or something, he is right in this race for the win, because he is sticking with this group all the way, and he's catching them through the middle sector as well, very nicely. He's in a really good position. He's got a really strong pace under him. It's just the DRS zones that are costing him. But the fact he's staying with them, even through the DRS zones, just shows how quick he is.
Yeah, doing a brilliant job at the moment is Carwin Robb, like you say. And Peter Gillis, by the way, had a bit of a mistake through the stadium section. He's now separated from Funky Chicken, so Funky Chicken now completely on his own, still 4.4 seconds back. Chicken as well has got solid pace in terms of being in the middle part of the lap. He's running around similar lap times to Carwin Robb, but just plain and simply because of the battling in front of him, he has dropped so far back. So he's going to have to hope for something maybe out of his own control to help him get a bit closer to the front of the field. We know what Funky Chicken is like when he races at the front of the field. He's very consistent and a good solid driver, always in there for a fight for a podium. So on to lap 9. No one's decided to come in as of yet. Around now is where we'll start to see drivers come in if they're going to do the 2-stop strategy. No one's come in as of yet, so we'll see how far people extend. You've got to say, if you're going to make the soft to medium strategy work, you've got to go probably to about at least lap 14 on these tyres.
Yeah, I think you've got. I think if you're a good wheel driver, you could maybe go to 12, maybe 11 even. But for most, it'll be around lap 14 if you're going to do the soft medium, make it work. The AlphaTauri switching positions into turn 1 at the back. And I'll tell you what, I think Rick will be feeling very motivated right now, because he would have seen Forza Brendan's red light flashing. No, it's harvesting energy at the end of the straight there. We've got J-Luke and Luke, the 2 Lukes going at it through turns 5 and 6. And I think Luke got a penalty there. He might try and get that removed, but I have no doubt he'll probably get another warning. And I think he got another one on the exit of turn 6 there. They're still side by side into 7. The Ferrari with the inside line just slips up there, and RJ waiting to pounce on any kind of mistake. But there's some really good battling all the way through the field. Another penalty for Peter Gillis. They really are flooding in, are they? They're flooding in quicker than even I thought they would. Normally I hope up penalties, and they don't tend to come, but they are really coming today.
Yeah, they really are, as we've got our 2 leaders in. Forza Brendan and Rikurik are into the pit lane. J. Cole and Tinkan are in to the pit lane as well at the end of lap 9. That is a lot earlier. That suggests to me that's a 2-stop strategy. Surely they cannot go to the end of the race on the set of mediums from here. Rikurik's got hards. Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Rick was pitting this point, that's what I would have done. Brendan is being a brave lad to try and do this. Actually, I'm going to say, Brendan's not going to have DRS here. Rick's going to have DRS, and because Brendan got held slightly by Tinkan, and Rick's actually going to get a move on here into turn 1, is he? Brendan's going to go very late, very deep on the brakes. Verstappen style there. He holds on nicely. I think he's going to have more grip from his mediums. But there was half a whiff there for Rick, because Brendan got held slightly by Tinkan, I think. And in fact, Rick is going to go for it again here. He's up the inside into 4. He pulls to the left. Brendan's going to have to go late, and Deep's going to have to take the high line through 4. Turns into the inside for 5, and that just covers Rick off. But we'll see now whether Rick can hold on the hards, because I'm not sure if he'll be able to. The mediums of this game, every track are consistently so much quicker than the hards. But we'll see. But as you said, very oddly early strategy, at least for those going for the mediums. I can't see that working for Brendan. But I'm happy to be proven wrong, because I often am. Nathan's in as well now.
Yeah, Nathan into the pit lane. Car and Rob, I think, is into the pits as well, and so is Funky Chicken. So, Tinkan is the first of our leaders in this race to get a time penalty. I think the saving grace here for Forza Brendan is that pretty much everyone around him is also on the same strategy apart from Rick. So, as it stands, of all the people that are on that strategy, he's the lead of those drivers. So, that's somewhat of a saving grace for him, as he's now going to try and get past Timats down the straight. Nathan actually had a brilliant in-lap there, and he's nearly overcut Rikurik in all of that. He's not quite been able to get there, but he's added the DRS zone to J. Cole, so the top 3 here could start to spread away as RJ's gone around now, coming through turn 1. I don't know if that's because of contact, but RJ facing the wrong way, very different to the last 3 races he had. It's been a bit of a horror show so far for the McLaren man. That's another free place for Forza Brendan, who's got past Timats. Rikurik now going for the move on Timats as well. If Rikurik can stay within DRS range of Forza Brendan here, he's got a massive opportunity of winning this race by a comfortable margin. Of course, a pit stop around here is about 20 seconds, so Forza Brendan's gonna get, you've got to say, at least 8 to 10 seconds up the road in this stint of the race.
He's got to get a shift on. He needs to get his running boots out and go for a bit of a sprint here. He can't just run this like he normally does, like a marathon. He's got to yeet his car around the track and just hope that he's going to dump Rikurik. It's only a second right now. Brendan's going to need a thick end of a second a lap to try and make this work, because 25 laps to go, as you said, like 20 seconds for a pit stop. He's got to pull it back and look further back. Timats is getting pushed around the track here by Nathan, by J. Cole, by Tinkan. And that's giving Rikurik a nice bit of breathing space to run away here. He's got Timats out of DRS zone. Timats is now going to lose his way to Nathan. Nathan pulls out nicely. That's going to be a very textbook overtake as Brendan now passes Trench. There's too many place changes to keep count here, but that's very helpful for Rick. Timats has done him a bit of a favour, and Timats is still trying to fight it out with Nathan through turn 1. Brave guy.
Yeah, yellow flag at the back of the field. That's Darry who's had a spin at the back. I think that's completely on his own, unfortunately, but both McLarens having horror shows of races. Now this is where it gets difficult for Rikurik, because Brendan's got the move done on Trench, and now Rikurik's going to have to sit behind Trench for this middle part of the lap. So this is where Rikurik's going to start to lose time to Forza Brendan. He's going to lose that DRS, and he'll lose that advantage. He's now got Nathan, J. Cole and Tinkan right behind as well. Colin Robb a little bit detached after that pit stop phase, but he's on the freshest of the medium compound tyres of those battling around him. So while all the drivers in front are making their way through traffic, Carmen Robb can start to close back in just a little bit on this battle in front, as there goes Rikurik down the inside of Trench in towards the stadium section at turn 12. He's got the move done, but on this lap alone has lost a second, and Nathan with a late move down the inside of the hairpin gets the move done on Trench as well. A little bit of contact there on the way through the corner, but a nice opportunistic move there for Nathan to get the move done before the straight.
That was silly from Trench. He looked bitter. That was a bitter move, a bitter retaliation, that he'd allowed himself to be taken by Nathan into turn 13 and then just shoved his car up the inside of 14 and just hoped to irritate him, annoy him, just put him off and half-hearted attempt at trying to get back through. I don't like that kind of driving where you get overtaken, accept it, back out, don't try and just force your front wheel into the right rear just for the sake of it. J. Cole's through now as well, as is Tin Can, so that ended up costing Trench a lot. But it's pretty much as you were, apart from Ricker is now 2 seconds behind Brendan. But through the pit stops, we've retained our little train, we've retained our battle, so very glad about that. But Brendan has got to run away now. He's absolutely got to put a shift on.
Yeah, he has got to put a shift on. He's got to get past J-Luke as quickly as he can. Down the pit straight is going to be the best opportunity for him. J-Luke, really the only one at the moment on that alternate strategy that's making it work, you've got to say. He's now a pit stop behind our race leader, but he is comfortably ahead of Trench and Tim-Mats, and of course RJ's had a spin as well. So J-Luke, the only one really on that alternate strategy we need to look out for as Trench and Mats go side by side. Around goes Tim-Mats on the inside of the corner. Carmen Robb very nearly collected the side of the AlphaTauri there, but just about gets away with it. Yet again, a lot of these drivers a bit further down the field making desperate attempts at overtakes. Turn 12 is not an overtake unless you're fully alongside or ahead of the car in front, and Tim-Mats was not there, and that's another spin for the AlphaTauri driver.
It's just not worth it. It's just not worth taking those risky overtakes. I mean, turn 12 isn't really an overtaking zone unless you're miles quicker, as whoever it was, I think Brendan, the previous lap when he got past somebody. But Carmen Robb's past his teammate now, but he's 2.6 seconds off the train. And Nathan is up the inside into turn 4. That's big for him. He now needs to follow his teammate for the evening and scamper away. I think Ricky's going to find himself slowly falling through this train. But he'll know he's taking the pain now so he can reap the rewards later. Because are these medium runners going to get to the end? That is the big question. I don't think they will, but I'm often wrong. Tin Can's lost it.
Oh my word, second place in the championship, Tin Can losing it on the curb on the inside of turn 8. We've seen J-Luke do that in qualifying. It's easy to do. He's managed to keep the car going, but Tin Can without a front wing, that is massive for the championship. He needed a great result here tonight. Without a safety car in this race, that's it. You've got to say, that's championship over for Tin Can with that mistake.
Yep, and with Carmen Robbins 6th in Falls Brennan leading, I think that's championship over completely. J-Luke comes into the pits, so we'll see if he goes hard. If he's going hard, that will be a one-stop. Tin Can's going to have to come in as well. He's so far down in P13. The only thing he can do is go hard and go to the end. Tim-Mats is coming in as well. But yeah, that's devastating for Tin Can. Especially when it's an individual error, because you've got no one to blame but yourself. You can't get angry at anybody else. You've just got to take the pain and say, I made a mistake, and it's not always the funniest thing to do. Tin Can's going softs. I respect the ambition that he'll get a safety car. I mean, we've got an Alfa Romeo round at turn 2. That's Peter Gillis, but there's going to be no safety car from that. And I don't know why Tin Can's gone softs, frankly. I mean, he needed a safety car anyway, I suppose, so it half makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a safety car that comes out, you can pit for another set of mediums or set of softs at some point in the race and still be in contention. So we'll wait and see. One thing to note here, Forza Brendan's not pulling away. Nathan's actually closing back in on our race leader. It's 1.8 seconds at the moment. It was 2.5 seconds when Nathan got the move done on Rick. So it's come down quite quickly between the two Red Bull drivers here. What is in turn happening is Forza Brendan, his strategy isn't working, plain and simply because his teammate's too fast. And because his teammate is too fast, Nathan's dragging Rikurik with him. And Rikurik on these hard compound tyres, you've got to say at this point of the race, is doing a stellar job. He's got brilliant pace considering the hards are usually a terrible tyre. He's keeping to the back of Nathan nicely, and he's under no pressure at the moment from Jake or Karen Robb behind.
Yeah, the longer this goes on as it is, the more the race tilts in Rick's favour. Of course, if the guys in front of him do go to the end, he's going to have to make on-track overtakes, but it means he has less work to do. He doesn't have to overturn a big 4 or 5 second deficit. He's in a good position where he can just wait to pounce, just let the tyres come towards him, let the Red Bulls come towards him. J. Cole, I think, will be optimistic. He can do a similar strategy. He's on the same strategy as Brendan, but I think J. Cole's quite all right at looking after his tyres. I think he'll have no problems going to the end on his mediums. Potentially, I don't know. I mean, I'm second guessing whether this is whether they are trying a 2-stop or 1-stop. I think they're just doing a very aggressive 1-stop, frankly. But even if they are, it's going to come towards Rick, because Rick is quicker than Nathan now. He's following him really well through the S's, so
yeah.
I don't think Rick will have to wait long, to be honest, to get on and get back after Brendan.
I don't think so, no. I think this performance at the moment for Rikurik is kind of proving what we mentioned earlier on, that the mediums just don't look like a good race tyre, do they? I mean, those that started on the mediums had absolutely no pace. The lead of those drivers now is J-Luke. He's 9th on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, but he is well over a pit stop off the race lead, as Rikurik's actually going for the move in towards turn 1. Down the inside, there's a bit of contact there with Nathan on the way in. As they go through 2 and 3, Rikurik will have the inside line for turn 3, but again, more contact. They force each other wide. J. Cole is going to say thank you very much. He breezes up the inside as those two were wheel banging with one another. J. Cole just sneaked on past. He's up into 2nd position. Nathan down into 4th, and you've got to say, Rikurik was entitled to go for the move, but it wasn't really necessary for his race. He didn't really need to make that move, you've got to say.
I'm not sure who I'd blame more for that little scuffle. I think they were both as bad as each other, frankly. I mean, Rick was, he was quicker. Nathan was on 0% ERS at the end of the straight. J. Cole and Nathan both pick up penalties there at turn 7 and 8. So, if Rick didn't need to make a move before, he definitely doesn't need to make a move now, does he? So he's sitting very pretty there. But he's lost a lot of time to Brendan in that. He's lost about half a second, 6/10 of a second to Brendan. And this has brought Carwin Robb into it. Look at Carwin Robb now. He's within DRS as well. And I said earlier on how quick he was looking, that he was sticking with these guys, and he nearly had a moment there out of turn 16. But, Carwin Robb is right into this. He's in DRS range, and with Nathan having absolutely 0 ERS, same for Rick, same for J. Cole. Carwin Robb's in a very tidy position here as well, and his tyres are 1 lap fresher too.
Yeah, doing a very good job at the moment. We've got to keep an eye out as well for Funky Chicken, who is having a very lonely race at the moment in 6th position. He's got no penalties though, and the drivers in front already do. So if he can get a little bit closer, then he could be within penalty range of some of these guys a little bit later on in this race. So keep an eye out for him a little bit later. J. Cole then into 2nd position. This is the highest we've seen J. Cole pretty much all season long. He's, like we mentioned in qualifying, he had a great start to the season, and since then it just hasn't really gone his way, unfortunately. He's had solid results in the top 4 and the top 5 all season long. But one thing to note for J. Cole here, he's only had 1 podium finish this entire season. That came at Singapore, a very difficult racetrack. So when it comes to a difficult racetrack with opportunities of crashing and penalties, J. Cole seems to shine. So once again, he's shining here tonight.
I think he's a bit of an opportunist, isn't he, J. Cole? He's very successful at capitalising when other people fall away. It's an archetype of driver that you see in every division, no matter the speed. There's always those drivers who are just good at capitalising on difficult circumstances for everybody else. J. Cole is very much one of them. But he's doing Brendan a favour here, because clearly, I think he's the slowest of these 3, or these 3 who are directly behind him. And as Rick comes past him back now to turn 1, J. Cole's not going to fight that one out. It was giving Brendan the opportunity to move away a little further. So I think putting Rikurik back at the front of that train, or if Nathan comes back to the front of that train, Brendan might find these guys coming back at him again as Luke passes RJ into turn 1. And Peter Gillis is retired in the pit lane. I got excited for a safety car then.
That's a shame to see Peter Gillis retiring in the pits, but I think he picked up 5 penalties before that
process.
process.
Nathan's made a mistake.
Ooh.
He took a very high line through 6, and Carwin Robb nearly snuck through, and then Carwin Robb, in his excitement, nearly lost it on traction. And then nearly loses it again through turn 8 and 9, and just completely gets out of kilter through the middle of the S's there.
Yeah, get a little bit squirrely at the back of this field now, at the back of this train, isn't it? It's getting a little bit messy. We're getting... If they are on a 2-stop, we're not far away now from these drivers thinking about maybe going for another set of mediums, or it'll probably be around lap 25-26 if they want to go for another set of softs. Still though, Forza Brendan's not pulling away fast enough. An 18.6 on that lap. Forza Brendan is 1.1 seconds off his fastest lap of this race so far, which was set on these medium tyres just 8 laps ago, as Tinkan picks up another penalty. That is a major tyre fall-off for the medium compound tyres, which suggests to me that even if they were doing the 1-stop, I don't think the medium tyres were the right call, because it looks like the hards aren't having the same pace drop-off at the moment.
Either the hards are a really good tyre, or Rikurik just has some godly race pace right now, because, I say that, but here comes J. Cole into turn 4, he's coming back at it, and I don't know why these guys are battling so much. They're just losing time to Brendan. Rikurik has no patience with this, and he's of a mind to just completely strong-arm J. Cole out of the way and say, you are not coming through today. And he does hang on, but they're costing themselves time. They're just tripping over themselves here. Penalty for Carwin Robb. They're tripping over themselves for the sake of very little right now when Brendan is really the real target. The race win is the real target, and he's 4 seconds up the road. They shouldn't be fighting each other in the way they are. Just follow and let the battling come later on. Work together for now, catch up to Brendan, and then see where you're at. That's what I would do if I was in Jake Allnane's position. It's not worth the fight.
I fully agree with you there. It's not worth the fight. Unless you can get an easy move down a DRS straight, you shouldn't really be battling that hard. J. Cole could have a run here. So could Carwin Robb, though. He had a brilliant run coming off the final corner. Nathan still with no ERS. Carwin Robb with much more. J. Cole in front as well as going for the move around the outside of turn 1 on Rikurik. Rikurik backs out of that one, so J. Cole's back into second. Carwin Robb's going to try and brave it around the outside of 1, make it the inside of 2, but Nathan fast around the outside of turn 2 holds the place. Carwin Robb runs off the track to avoid the side of the Red Bull. He's got another run coming down towards turn 4. He's going for the outside again, this time around into turn 4, which will make it the inside for 5. Has he got enough grip to get to the inside of the corner? Not quite. Too tight an angle for turn 5. He thought about it, he tried the move, but because they're in a DRS train, he just couldn't get the overspeed to get past.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Carwin Robb. He needs a bit of a break in this train just to let him pick one of them off, because for as long as everyone's got DRS, there's really no hope for him, and he's still struggling through the S's there. The car's just wandering away from the apex a little bit. He's still got most of the overtake of this train. He's got most of the overtake of the top 5, actually, as Carwin Robb. But like we're seeing with Funky Chicken a lot of the season, when he's at the back of that leading train, he just can't do anything with it right now. There's no window for him to try and break through, as YHY is into the pits for is that a third stop, a second stop?
I think that is a second stop in this race, but I don't know if YHY is actually in control of his car, unfortunately. I don't think he has. Trench, the next driver...
he's not, yeah.
Yeah, Trench and Tinkan again, another penalty, so I think Tinkan's pretty much given up on this race by the looks of things. But one thing to note as well, I've been keeping an eye on the pace of J. Luke and the other Luke. Those are the two on the soft compound tyres at the moment. They came out of the pit lane and were absolutely rapid, and then the last couple of laps or so, they've not been able to close in on Funky Chicken. So if they are going forward this two-stop strategy, which, well, they definitely are, considering the tyres they started on and what they're on now, again, it's a great tool for an undercut, and then almost immediately the pace of the tyres drops off. So yeah, a really bizarre strategy call. The two-stop strategy, at the moment, the only driver I think that could make the two-stop strategy work is Forza Brendan, plain and simply because the drivers behind him are all battling with one another.
But if the guys behind him were to one-stop and Brendan was to try and two-stop, he's going to find himself having to overtake all 4 cars. And with the DRS train, he'll be able to with the fresh tyres, but it's going to be a pain in the backside to try and pick these guys off one by one. Particularly when there'll be absolutely no mind to let them go. I think Carwin Robb just gave Nathan a little tap there through turn 13. J. Cole is really bottling this train up. I think he is definitely the slowest of the group, and he's not falling back from Brendan too much, but he's keeping these guys, especially through the middle sector. They're nose to tail, and I think Carwin Robb's going to try and make a move on Nathan, but he's got no ERS to work with. No one's got any ERS to work with, and they're all under 10% at the end of the straight.
Yeah, they're all using it so hard to try and fight one another that they've ended up running out, and now they can't fight one another. They're just, costing themselves time, to the point now that even with the DRS that they've got to help them pull themselves along, Funky Chicken's closing in on this lot. He lost some time a few laps ago. He is now closing back in, and of course, still with no penalties to his name at the moment, Funky Chicken here. So maybe if Funky Chicken thinks of an earlier pit stop, or if these drivers are in front on a two-stop strategy, if he thinks of an earlier pit stop to get himself in penalty range, that could be massive for Funky Chicken's race as well. So got to keep an eye out on him. The gap at the front now 5.4 seconds as Forza Brendan just stretches that gap out just that little bit more from J. Cole, who, like you say, is kind of bottling up this crew of cars. Forza Brendan here, it's hard to say what he can do. The one-stop strategy, he could go to the end of the race. The two-stop strategy, he could also get to the end of the race with some searing pace as well. I'd say now that the fact that J. Cole's losing so much time, Forza Brendan may as well push as hard as he can and get some fresh tyres on.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone was going to stop for a second stop, I think they would stop around about now to get the most out of the soft tyres. J. Cole's lost one place to Rikurik there. He's going to lose a second to Nathan. And is Nathan going to send this on Rikurik as well? He's not. But he's not got the move complete on J. Cole, and J. Cole tries to hang it back a little bit. Carwin Robb's now going to get J. Cole through the inside of turn 3. Is he? No, he just has to nip it back out of that one. J. Cole holds on. But that was a costly straight for J. Cole. 2 places lost under DRS, and it shows you, when you've got nowhere to defend, you really can't do anything, can you? We've got a yellow flag at the back. That is Tin Can. has had a spin through the Peril Tada. My. Can it get any worse for Tin Can today? He's had a horror show. I think he just wants this race to be over. I wouldn't blame him, to be honest, if he came in and retired. It's been that bad.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
At this point in the race, by the way, J. Cole, look at him, he's really struggling. In fact, Rekurik has nearly dropped Nathan from his DRS range, so we're now starting to see the hard tyres become the real stronger tyre of this bunch. Rekurik's actually closed back in on Forza Brendan on this lap so far, so it's now starting to swing toward the hard compound tyre. The hard compound tyre is looking the stronger of the two at this point in the race. Another interesting thing to note as well, before Luke came in for his second set of soft compound tyres, he'd actually been re-overtaken by RJ, who was on 23 lap-old mediums. So those soft compound tyres lasted only, well, he was on them for 9 laps, was Luke. It was just going on to his 10th when he came into the pit lane. They only lasted 10 laps before he made that final stop. So it's got to be around now where they're going to go for these soft compound tyres. Kyle and Rob going for it again on J. Cole through turns 2 and 3. And J. Cole's lost the rear of the car, managed to hold it, but he has now dropped completely off the back of Rekurik and Nathan. Kyle and Rob's going to drop with him. Funky Chicken's going to close in on by a good couple of seconds in the process as well. That queue is now split up, but plain and simply, I think, because J. Cole's medium tyres are finished.
There's a gap for J. Cole to make a pit stop now if he feels like it. I mean, I think he's going to come out around about Trench, or just behind Farrell Fury maybe. There's a gap for J. Cole opening up if he wants to try and make it work. He can't wait too long because J. Luke and Luke are going to come into that. But yeah, as you say, his tyres are absolutely finished. Carwin Rob's going to dispose him very quickly, I think, down the main straight. Rikurik catching Forza Brendan further still in the middle sector. Another 3/10 this lap. It's under 5 seconds now. And I think Rick is going to win this race on track. You know, he's got 10 laps. He needs less than half a second a lap. I think Rick can do this. Nathan's into the pits.
Yeah, into the pits.
Jacob's into the pits. Carwin Rob's into the pits. Here we go.
Yeah, they're all in then, so I'm not surprising from my side of things. J. Cole was sliding about so much onto the softs. All 3 of them go. Funky Chicken stays out for an extra lap. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Forza Brendan and Funky Chicken in on this lap as well, because I think if Forza Brendan stays out, the rate of speed that he's losing compared to Rekurik in the middle part of this lap now means that Rekurik would just breeze past him at some point later on in the race. So Forza Brendan's got to try and come in, give himself the fresher tyres and give himself a possible opportunity of winning this race. But I fully agree with you. As it stands right now, Rekurik's in the best seat in the house, looking like he could be the one to win this race, which would be, I believe, our 7th, I think, different winner this season. J. Cole picks up another time penalty, so only four drivers in this field without a time penalty at the moment. That is Tim Atz in 7th position, and our top 3 on the track at the moment of Brendan, Rekurik and Funky Chicken. So hats off to them. They're doing a brilliant job of keeping it penalty free. Are we going to see Forza Brendan in at the end of this lap? I'm sure we will. Another thing to note as well, Nathan in 4th position, miles ahead of J. Cole coming out of the pit lane, nearly 4 seconds. So Nathan now completely on his own in 4th.
Yeah, Nathan's had a bit of an unlucky one. I kind of want to say, I think he could have done a lot better with this race. He could have won this race quite easily if it had gone a different way with the train he was in. But he's got clean air now, and he's comfortably at the front of that. I'm intrigued to see how much time Brendan's going to lose to Nathan. The gap was about 6 seconds, wasn't it, before Rick broke away slightly. So it's going to be a lot closer than that. Of course, Nathan's got a penalty to deal with. In fact, Nathan's got 8 seconds of penalties to deal with. But on track, at least, he is just 2.4 seconds behind Nathan, behind Brendan now. The undercut has been huge.
Yeah, that is massive. That is a massive undercut that Nathan has just pulled off. That's about 3 seconds in a lap that he's pulled on his teammates. So that is a brilliant undercut. J. Cole and Kyle Rob as well with really, really strong pace. So we'll see if Forza Brendan has that same pace on these softs as well. But he is now 15 seconds off the lead.
Do you think he's going to catch Funky Chicken? But do you think he's going to catch Rekurik? I don't think he can. I think in 9.5 laps, 15 seconds, 14.5 rather, I don't think that's enough. I don't think he's got enough laps left.
I don't think he has either. I think considering the pace drop-off we saw from Luke on his set of soft compound tyres, within 9 laps he was being overtaken by RJ, whose tyres were 23 laps old on medium compound tyres. I think Forza Brendan will be rapid for the next 4 or 5 laps maybe, but then after that, I don't think the softs are going to have enough grip in them for him to be able to pull anything else off. Time penalty for Timmats now. Karen Robbs got past J. Cole. J. Cole spun. J. Cole has spun coming out of turn 17 onto the pit straight. So that is a potential podium gone for the Mercedes driver there. He drops now as J. Luke is actually starting to catch J. Cole there. So that's a gift to Funky Chicken if Funky Chicken wants to pit. But interestingly, Funky Chicken's staying out. I wonder if Funky Chicken's going to be the one to try the one stop on the softs to the mediums.
I wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it was beyond the realms of possibility if you're good on tyres to try and one stop from where they were. They only would have needed a couple of more laps to make it safe. As Trench passes Tin Can and Farrell Fury does the same on very fresh tyres. I think Farrell Fury might even go for try and make it a double move here, but he hangs back from Trench to turn one. But I don't blame Funky Chicken. He's not had a huge standout result this season, but perhaps he deserves one. So, I admire it. Go Hail Mary, go long, go for the end zone, and just see what he can do. But Brendan's 3 seconds behind him now, so the only thing that'll help Funky Chicken is if those softs go off as quickly as they have done earlier in the race and for other drivers. So, but Brendan took 6-7 tenths of a second out of Funky Chicken in the stadium section alone. I think that is downing evidence that says that Funky Chicken is not going to keep hold of second place. But we'll see. That's why we watch it, because we have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what's going to happen, do we? At the moment, the gap now between Rickovic and Forza Brendan down to 11 seconds. So in 2 laps, he's taken 4.5 seconds out of our race leader. So he is flying. It's whether he can maintain that pace to the end. But I think either way for Forza Brendan, you've got to say at this point in the race, once it gets past Funky Chicken, he doesn't really have to win this race now, does he? Because Carwin Robb's got, I think, 12 seconds of penalties now, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to double check that now. No, it's 9 seconds, but he's not far away from getting that 4th penalty of the race. Brendan's not under any threat from any of the drivers behind in terms of penalties or pace. At this point in the race now, he's already on the back of Funky Chicken, by the way. He doesn't have to win this race because Carwin Robb at best is going to be 5th and Tin Can's out of the points. So as it stands, Forza Brendan can finish 2nd in this race and have a comfortable enough margin in the championship to not really worry for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Brendan's in a position where he can do what he wants. He can go aggressive, he's fine. He can go conservative, he's fine. And here we go, he's alongside Funky Chicken before he's even opened his DRS. That was how powerful those fresh softs were out of Perel Tarda on the traction. He reminds me of Max Verstappen a lot, as I think Tin Can has spun again in the middle sector as I cut myself off. He reminds me of Max Verstappen a lot, does Forza Brendan. He's just relentlessly dominant over one lap in qualifying. He doesn't seem to go wrong in that respect, and Max Verstappen is an outstanding qualifier. And in races, he just puts together these unflappable, calm, superlative performances in the races. And when he makes a mistake, it's a big mistake. Otherwise, he doesn't put a foot wrong. He makes big mistakes or no mistakes, which is kind of how it feels watching Max Verstappen in real life. He does very much remind me of the man whose car he drives in this game as RJ passes Luke. He just doesn't do anything wrong, really, Brendan. He's just so dominant, so calm, so professional. And it's a pleasure to watch, but I wish we had some more competition for him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what competition he does have. I mean, considering the fact that last season in Division 4 was his first ever season doing any sort of league racing, I can't think of the last time we've seen someone rise in speed as quickly as Forza Brendan has. He was in D4 last season battling with Calvin for the championship, and you've got to say out of the two, Calvin was the quicker driver. They've both come into this season, and Forza Brendan's, wiped the floor with Calvin in that Red Bull team, and with the rest of Division 3, to the point where you've got to say at this point in the season, if you put him up into Division 2, it's very likely he would be winning in Division 2 as well. So the performance that Brendan has put on in this season is mind-boggling, and the amount of speed he's gained from one season to the next, I think, is unmatched at the moment in League of Europe.
His learning curve is more of a learning vertical line, isn't it? That's how it feels. And say he could go straight to D2 and win is depressing for us as two Division 2 drivers. Do tune in later, 8:10 on League of Europe YouTube channel to see my good friend Car Mentalist win back-to-back races. But yeah, he would not be. I don't think he'd be out of place at some tracks in Division 1 for Forza Brendan. I know it's high praise indeed, but I think it's true. I don't think you put him on a strong track, he wouldn't be out of place there. his qualifying performance, I can't remember what race it was, it might have been Monza potentially, I think would have put him 8th in D1 or 9th in D1. That's very respectable. He's just at a level of his own, really, in Division 3. I think in Division 2 he could easily have put together a title challenge because of his consistency.
Yeah.
Although lower division consistency doesn't necessarily translate into upper division consistency, which many drivers have shown in the past after a promotion. But Brendan has shown between D4 and D3 that that's not an issue for him, as we're going to get Nathan now past Funky Chicken. Neither has any ERS, but Nathan's got so much better tyres. He can send it so late on the brakes into 4. Very nicely done. Funky Chicken put up no real resistance there. And the key for Chicken now is, can he hold on? Can he stick within Nathan's penalty window of 8 seconds? I think he's safe to say he can. But Funky Chicken's got to make sure he doesn't make a mistake from here on out.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on him and see if he can keep within that one, or whether Nathan can secure that final spot on the podium. But either way, a great drive for Funky Chicken, considering the first lap he had and where he qualified. If he pulls off this strategy, that is a brilliant result from him. The gap between our leaders is now only 3 seconds, so Forza Brendan's managed to reduce a 16-second gap down to 3 seconds in about 7 laps. He's absolutely flying. He is now a second off his personal best on those soft compound tyres, but he is still catching Rick Herrick at a vast rate of knots. Either way, if either one of these wins this race, it's on a strategy that we weren't expecting. Forza Brendan on the 2-stop, Rick Herrick has gone soft to hard. These two today have easily been the class of the field, you've got to say.
They've been outstanding, and once again they proved me wrong, because I said multiple times this was just a easy soft medium. I said it about 6 times during the formation lap, so once again I've been shut up. I mean, Brendan's pace is dropping off. He did a 15.9 lap 30, then a 16.5, then a 16.8, and this lap again he's lost another 10.5 to his previous lap in Sector 1. His pace is dropping off. And, being class of the field notwithstanding, the gap's down to 1.8. Could he just run out of tyres just as he's ready to make a move, or I'm being too hopeful? I mean, even with his drop-off, he's still, a thick end of 2 seconds a lap quicker than Rickerick, he's only 1.5 behind now. So, I think Brendan has got this one, hasn't he? 1.4 now, 1.3 coming out of Peril Tarda. 1.2 make that. Even with the drop off, it's just he's still got so much advantage.
Yeah, I think he does at this point in the race, but I think that's just accustomed to what we were talking about, and that Brendan just seems to be at the moment in this division in a class of his own. As it stands further down, Car and Rob going for the move on Funky Chicken, and again Funky Chicken not putting up a fight because he is comfortably at the moment still within penalty range of both Nathan and Car and Rob with just 3 laps to go, so he will just try and sit behind the Alpine for as long as he can and see if he can nick that 3rd spot on the podium, which would secure at the moment, well, I say secure at the moment, a 4th place in the standings, but Rick is currently in the lead of the race, so Rick would take over 4th as it stands right now. So it's a good battle for that in that sense of things. Forza Brendan now right onto the back of Rick. It looks like he's going to get this move done on the pit straight next time around with just 2 laps to go. Either way, we'll take away the Forza Brendan tax of the pace that he has in this division. If Forza Brendan wasn't in this division, Rick would have utterly dominated this race with this strategy. So you've got to say, even though Forza Brendan looks like he's going to win this race, the right strategy was the soft to the hard for Rick.
Yeah, I think that's shown, because Brendan, as you say, there's a little bit of a tax to apply to his strategy. But soft hard looks much quicker. I mean, you think of Nathan, Carl and Rob, J. Cole were Rick's direct competitors really for much of this race. There goes Brendan now. DRS open. Nicely done from our championship leader and champion in waiting. But Rick is, 6 seconds clear of Nathan still?
Yeah.
With 2 laps to go. He's comfortably made that work, hasn't he? Because he was very much on a level pace with Nathan, with Rob, with J. Cole. So, I think he has shown that soft hard isn't at all the wrong way to go. It proved to work out very nicely for him.
Yeah, it has worked out very nicely, like you're saying. The one person that has tried that soft medium strategy is Funky Chicken, and in comparison to Rick, he's losing a lot of time now as Funky Chicken. He's lost nearly 2 seconds in 1 lap to Car and Rob, so those medium tyres are absolutely finished on that Aston Martin. He's got a lap and a half to go, but he is now running the risk of dropping out of penalty range of Nathan here, which is how slow he's been in the last few laps or so. The mediums are just completely dead at this point in the race. He's not going to get caught from behind. J. Cole 8 seconds behind J. Luke, a further 5 seconds behind that as well. So yeah, soft medium strategy, not maybe quite as fast as both of us were first expecting, and yeah, you can just continue to see Funky Chicken is losing a couple of tenths a corner at this point to Karin Robb in front. So it's going to be a long final lap for Funky Chicken. He's going to have to hope that he stays within penalty range, and if he does, it's a solid podium finish once again for the Aston Martin driver.
He is, but he's 6 seconds behind Nathan now. He has to lap within 2 seconds of him on this lap, and let's have a look at what Nathan did last time round. Nathan did a 17.5. Funky Chicken did a 19.0, which gives him a half-second buffer. So Funky Chicken can't afford to back off and avoid a puncture. If he wants a podium, he still has to go hell for leather on this last lap to make sure he doesn't fall out of Nathan's penalty window. The rate Nathan's lapping, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. Nathan could yet get this.
Yeah, he could get this. The reserve driver looking for his first podium in Division 3. That would be a great drive from him as well. Both Red Bulls have been very strong here today. Karin Robb in fourth, trying his best as well to get onto the podium, but those penalties are going to deny him that once again. But into the stadium section for the final time is Forza Brendan. It looks on the surface like an easy win for Forza Brendan. It's been anything but that, but yet again, Forza Brendan is going to win in Division 3, and with both of his title rivals off the podium, that could be the championship over for them. Forza Brendan crosses the line and picks up yet another win this season. Rekurik with a brilliant drive on the one-stop strategy to finish in second position. Nathan crosses the line third on track with Karin Robb just behind. Around the final corner comes Funky Chicken. He crosses the line and he just gets the final spot on the podium by 0.2 of a second with the one stop from the softs to the mediums. It almost worked for Nathan, not quite in the end, just 0.2 off his first podium, but still a brilliant drive from him. J. Cole spun it across the line just to finish off in style. J. Luke will be next across the line, and everybody behind that is very, very spaced out. It wasn't a race of attrition in the end, you've got to say, but it was a race of people not being able to keep up with the driver in front and a very spread out field in the end.
Yeah, we had huge field spread. I want to give a shout out to Tinkan with his 26 seconds of penalties, and it's not gone. He's very close to disqualification. He just cut turn 9, and if he's not careful, he could get disqualified before the end of the race if he fancies any more corner cuts. But it's not been a good race for XL today, has it? RJ had that spin and then had a couple of penalties as well. XL been a bit of a disappointment, but REL, double podium for them. Deserved shout out because Funky Chicken, I want to give him my driver of the day. He probably snuck that one in there, didn't he? He came from really nowhere. He was nowhere near. We said how much he spent this race all by himself, with about 7 seconds in front and 4 seconds behind. He was nowhere, and it just somehow on penalties at the end he snuck in there and made the soft medium work, and he's gone long, and he came out of it with a podium. So I want to say, I'm not going to give it Brendan, I'm going to say Funky Chicken is my driver of the day.
I'm sure we'll be very happy to hear that one. I'm going to have to give it to Rekurik, I think, because not only was the strategy a great call from Rekurik in the end, but I've got to say that's probably the best we've seen of Rekurik all season long. I think, obviously, Rekurik has changed the way that he drives on this game with no assist and running in cockpit view, with basically no huddle, and it's been a bit of a baptism of fire in that sense of things for Rekurik this season, but that is a standout drive for him in this championship and a podium this season as well for the Haasman. He'll be very, very happy with that, and no coincidence as well that the top 3 on the podium are the only 3 drivers to not pick up a penalty in that race. That massively helped them, of course, in this one as well. Brendan wins yet again this season from Rekurik and Funky Chicken on the podium. Nathan just missing out by 0.2 of a second, but still a brilliant drive from him to finish 4th. Karin Robb in 5th position. That is his title run pretty much over and done with. After this race, he'll be 74 points off the championship lead. He is not mathematically out of the running, but he is pretty much out of the running, you've got to say, unless Forza Brendan DNFs all of the last 3 races, and Karin Robb wins all 3 of them. J. Cole in 6th in the end ahead of J. Luke. XORJ finishes in 8th despite a spin in that race. Luke in 9th ahead of Mats in 10th. He also spun in that race but recovered to a top 10 finish. Farrell, another one that spun, he finishes in 11th, and Trench, the last of the points, finishes Tinkan nearly a lap down in 13th position with no points on the ball, meaning it's likely his championship might be over as well. White RI, Peter Gillis, Darry and Rex, all 4 drivers not finishing that race in the end, the majority of those retiring in the pit lane. So a brilliant drive from the top 3, and our top 3 are into the party once again. So I think for the umpteenth millionth time this season, we'll have a word with our race winner, Forza Brendan. Forza Brendan, brilliant drive from yourself in the end. Maybe not the way you expected to win that race. It was a difficult one in the end. You had to fight for it, but still came out on top. How was that one from your side of things?
Uh, I've got a couple of cans of Guinness in the fridge, and I am going to absolutely down them when I'm done with this interview because I was just, oh my God, my mouth was just so dry throughout. Like, I just was so scared at one stage because when I was on the mediums, and obviously I saw Rick and J. Cole were fighting behind, and I really had no clue what to do because I'd planned a two-stop anyway in advance, and I just at one stage was thinking, like, do I stay out? Do I pit? And if I pit, who am I going to come out behind? So that was one of the sketchiest races I've ever done. Like, I mean, Mexico, like, the whole week has been so difficult trying to minimize the penalties and everything, but I don't know. I've no words. I'm just so exhausted after it. But you're right. I had to fight for it. Rick drove a great race overall. Like, I know he probably lost a lot of time with fighting J. Cole behind, but to be honest, like, he drove so well to make that one stop work, and it was really awesome, obviously, to see him. And he got a lightning start off the line, which I was furious about. I was so angry to see the lead go away like that, but it was just about keeping it on track today. I sort of knew that my pace was good in the race. Like, I wasn't sure about qualifying, but I just knew I had to keep it on track, whatever it is, whether it's a win or second place. I didn't really care, but when the win was there, I really, really wanted it, so I'm just glad I got it.
Yeah, brilliant stuff in the end. And we'll have a word on the championship. I think, I mean, your championship lead is so big that people at the moment are getting confused as to whether you've won the championship or not. I hate to say that you haven't won the championship as of yet, but your championship lead after this race is massive. 71 points, I believe, your championship lead will be after this race. So that's pretty much championship over and done with, unless you somehow DNF all of the last three races and Tin Can or Corin Rob wins all three of them. So, championship side of things, that race for you could not have gone really any better. How are you feeling now about the championship for the rest of the season?
I could pull like a Nicky Lauda and just basically say that's it, I quit, and let everybody else catch up to me. If I win, if I don't. But no, to be honest with you, like, this whole season has been just about getting the best result possible every single race. I think Tin Can and Carwin have sort of, between the three of us, like I've said it before, we have pushed each other all the way, and it's difficult, obviously, when, like, obviously I know, like, everybody is trying so hard, but that's just one of the things that I hope that people, like a guy like Tin Can, even after a race like this, that just because a race like this hasn't gone your way doesn't say anything about, like, a gap in the championship doesn't say anything about how well we have driven all season. That's just what I would say. I'm pretty level-headed about the championship lead because, in my opinion, it's just about just trying to get the results as best I can. That's all I care about, and it's just about kind of looking back at the past races and going, we've all made each other better, and, like, I hope that the other guys actually can say the same as well, which I think they will. So it doesn't matter about a championship lead. It's just a case of just trying to enjoy the remaining races and see what happens.
Yeah, enjoy the remaining races, like you say. Speaking of remaining races, Baku next week. I have a feeling, I think I know what you're going to say about this, but how are you feeling about Baku?
Well, you saw what happened in the race where I took part in with the QVR Invitational. That was difficult because, it was just, obviously Baku's a track that, like, obviously in career mode and all that stuff in the past, it's always a track I just don't really like because I qualify last, I take the engine penalties, and I just see where I go after it. So I don't know if I'll be able to, I don't know if I'm going to be brave enough to do the same here, but it's an okay track. Like, I think kind of, I guess maybe Baku is a track I think that's not really, it's not one of my favorites, but I think it's just a case of I'll go into it and I'll see what happens, and whatever result I get, I think I'll be happy with.
Yeah, fair play. And that, of course, with that massive championship lead as well, no risks really need to be taken at this point in the season, so you can see kind of what you can get for the next race. Jake, have you got anything you'd like to add?
That was, if I counted correctly, that was your 10th podium, and your 5th win in 14 races. Has this season exceeded all expectation in every regard, or is this the level you were aiming for? I mean, obviously we're all aiming for that level, but
Yeah,
realistically.
I think this season really has exceeded my expectations. I've discovered elements of myself this season that weren't there last season. Granted, I came in late to a game that, like, obviously people had a season under their belt, but I think, in my opinion, my mindset's always like I want to try and just do the best I can every season. My goal for this season was if I could match. Well, it's not so like it wasn't my goal at the start of the season, but certainly maybe after the win at Silverstone, I told myself if I can get the same amount of wins that I had last season, sorry, I sort of that would sort of just be just the perfect season. So to exceed that by one race is just, I think that says it all. I really have exceeded like my own expectations, just like I did last season. So it's insane. I'm just enjoying things at the moment. It's stressful, but it's just been really fun this season, and it's because of the likes of Tin Can and Carwin, and it's just been amazing.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing to watch as well the season so far. So, congrats on another win this season, your fifth win, like Jake said, and go and enjoy this one. Have those Guinnesses like you said you were going to. So
I most certainly will.
Enjoy that one.
Guys.
Congrats again. We may see you here next week, as we'll wait and see. We'll move on to our second place finisher, and we will move on to Rakurik, who is onto the podium. I'm not sure if this is your second podium of the season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Rakurik. I will double check that one in a second, but an alternate third. There we go. My maths is terrible, but there you go. Had a bit of an alternate strategy, to say the least. You were the only one in the field that touched, I think, the hard tyres at any point in that race, but it was a brilliant strategy call from you in the end. It just didn't quite work out.
Yeah, I was surprised that nobody else was doing the one-stop, because I did a couple of practices yesterday and the day before, and I noticed with the two-stopper I was actually slower for some reason than one-stop. So it was a clear choice for me to go with one-stop. And I think I would have won it, but then I had to battle J. Cole and Nathan.
Yeah. And
cost me time because I was only 5 seconds behind Brendan when he pitted, and 2.4 seconds behind when we finished. I think I would have stayed in the Brendan's second stint behind him. But yeah, it was a fun race anyways.
Yeah, really fun race from your side of things, and like you say, that one-stop strategy seemingly the faster one for you. When you saw the other drivers coming in and going for the medium tyres, was there ever a thought that you were going to try and follow suit and do the two-stop, or was the one-stop always the plan no matter what anyone else was doing?
Yeah, it was. If I was starting, well, anyways, top 10, outside of top 10, it was one-stopper without safety cars or VSCs or anything. But I was thinking around like lap 24-ish that the guys were still with me, that they're gonna go all the way to the end with the mediums, and I was thinking like, okay, this is gonna be easy. I'm gonna catch Brendan because the mediums are gonna go off, and but yeah, then they pitted and everything was fine.
Yeah, brilliant drive from you and yourself. And then I think I said it on stream, maybe that's probably been your strongest drive of the season so far. It's the closest you've been to a win this season as well. What does that do in terms of you for momentum for the end of the season? You're still right in that in the thick of the battle for P4 in the championship at the moment, with your fellow podium sitter Funky Chicken at the moment.
Yeah.
Is that a target that you think you can hit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, this was the first race I actually had pace to win, and I don't know about Baku with the wheel. I don't feel so confident there. I might change to a pad and go faster, but nah. Suzuka, why not? It's a fun track. I don't know if I will be racing. Don't know for sure yet, but Brazil, I've always been good, so I think I could go for P4.
Yeah, great to see. It'll be another little championship battle that we can watch. Jake, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I want to build on what Aidan just said. And the races you started this season, with the exception of Imola last week, you've not finished outside of the top 7. Obviously, you've missed a few races, but next season, do you think you can go for the title?
I don't know. I'm in a point of my life where I'm just having fun with this game. Because if I would practice and practice and practice, I'm sure I would be in D2 still. And I just want to have fun. And if the results come, then more better. But I don't really care.
I respect that, but I want you to win the title.
I respect it as well. It's good mentality to have. But thank you, Rick, for joining us in the party. We'll move quickly on to our...
I want to say congrats to Ibo if he was racing. It was his 100th race in LOE today.
Oh, wow. Brilliant. Blimey.
Amazing.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, well, congrats to Ibo as well. Hopefully he sees this. We might have to tag him in this one afterwards. We'll wait and see. But yeah, congrats on your second place finish. We'll move on to our final podium sitter. And another podium this season. It's been a real great run of form for this driver so far, Funky Chicken. But fair to say, the end of that race was fairly stressful for yourself.
Yeah, them tyres were just finished at the end of the stint, and I missed out by the podium by 2/10 last week and just about got it by 2/10 this week. So, very excited about that, but I did not enjoy that last stint at all.
Yeah, I can definitely say that it looked like a struggle when we were watching. You were really struggling for pace at the end. I think it's safe to say that maybe when you made that first pit stop, you were intending for a two-stop, I would say. Was that something you were intending on doing?
I was going for the one stop from the start, but I was planning to pit lap 11, but I just thought the undercut that the guy's head would get would extend that already massive gap even further. So I just pit the same time as them and just tried to manage the tyres a bit more.
Fair play. And in the end, it worked out quite nicely for you in the end. So I believe that is your third podium in 4 races now. So I'll ask the usual question. Momentum for the rest of the season. How are you feeling in that battle for 4? If you hold P4 now as it stands, how are you feeling about P4? Do you think you can get it?
I feel like I can get it now because I've extended the gap even further because I was tied after last week's race, and with the form that I'm currently on, I hope I can continue pushing on, but I know the struggle for me will just be Brazil because I've not really done much of that track with a wheel and without ABS, so it'll be a difficult race.
Yeah, that could be one standing out. Maybe is a little bit difficult for yourself. Jake, have you got anything you want to add before we finish off?
Yeah. So you've said 4 podiums now, but you're still lacking for that win. Is there a specific race, either in the end of this season or next season, where you target where you think that first win can really come for you?
I'm not too confident at the remaining tracks, so I don't think so. Just a bit frustrated about today because I think I could have challenged for the win tonight if it wasn't for the early drama with the 2 Alphas sending into turn 1 and almost taking me and Farrell out. So it was quite dangerous at the start then. We dropped about 5 seconds behind in just a couple of laps.
Yeah, unfortunately that side of the race then putting pay to what could have been a win. But either way, still a podium finish for yourself. And like we said, it's your third podium in 4 races. So congrats on that. We may see you again at some point later this season. We will wait and see. That is where we're going to finish off the stream today, guys. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. Jake, have you got anything you'd like to add to the stream before we finish off?
The usual thank you again, Division 3, for a fabulous race. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in and will tune in. And looking forward to next week at Baku, where I'm sure we'll see many front wings flying at various places and in various walls at various points of that race.
I just beg that it's not a wet race. Fingers crossed. I'm going to cross everything on my body to make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, tune into that one in a week's time. Of course, 6:30 is when Division 3 runs. Division 4 and Division 1 have already run as well. You can go back and watch those streams. Division 2 and Division 5 will be taking place in about 10 minutes' time, so make sure you tune into those as well. But thank you so much for joining us once again, and we will see you in a week's time. Goodbye.